Hi guys, I'm Chris.
And I'm Jimmy.
And we are the Two Stocky Guys.
On this channel, we invest $1,000 into the stock market every week and kind of share with you guys how it goes. Mm-hmm. So let's look at what I have in my portfolio so far. I have Bank of America, JP Morgan, and they've been up recently because the bank earnings came out and the big banks are doing okay. Mm-hmm. And then I also own Devon Energy, which is, it's okay. Yeah. And then as for your picks, you have AMD, ConocoPhillips, and Realty Income. Mm-hmm. And you're down a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Mostly from AMD.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it just did a pullback. I think a lot of the semiconductor stocks kind of went up. Mm-hmm. And I think you probably picked it at a high point. Yeah. And then now it's kind of like pulling back. But, you know, if we're talking about 5-10 years from now, yeah. AMD's gonna do great. Yeah. Okay, so for my stock pick last week, I chose Charles Schwab. So Charles Schwab is one of the four, well, I guess now three major U.S. brokerages. Charles Schwab, it's TD Ameritrade, Fidelity. So it's a brokerage, and basically it's one of those things that kind of allows you to buy and trade stocks, right? And basically they make their money because the money that you put into the account to buy and trade stocks, some of it you don't use, right? It's not in those stocks, it's just sitting there in the accounts. And then obviously if they have a lot of clients and they just kind of pull that kind of money and they use that money sort of how banks use their money, right? Yeah. So Charles Schwab fell by quite a bit. It was trading around 80 and now it's trading around 50, right? So it took a good hit when that bank scare started recently. I did a lot of research on this, and I think that a lot of people don't believe Charles Schwab to be in that same risk category as the regional banks, because they're really not a bank so much. They're more of a brokerage. So I think that's sort of one thing I kind of like looked at. I'm like, maybe this is just like one of those opportunities, right? Is there some risk? Of course. Tons of people out there way smarter than me who are like, I'm just going to stay away from Charles Schwab for a while, right? And there's probably a lot of people way smarter who's like, I'm just going to take my money out. Yeah. But I think that I'm going to see how it goes. And then I think this is an opportunity, or at least to me, it feels like an opportunity. Right. And also, the big reason why I bought it or I took the chance is that the CEO bought a lot of shares. I think he invested over like $1 million of his own money. To me, that's a good sign that they believe in the company. Yeah. And I think that a lot of people who I've watched on the news and research about this, a lot of people who are much smarter than me found this to be a buying opportunity. So that's kind of why I bought it. So after I bought this, Charles Schwab did have their earnings call. They beat on like profits and revenue, so they're doing well, they're making money, but they did lose on some deposits. The big fear is that now that interest rates are so high, people are putting their money into U.S. treasuries. Right. With the government and those
safer investments.
Right, safer investments and not leaving it into, these brokerages anymore. So again, it's not a completely risk-free, and there's probably very real inherent risks with the stock. But I think there's enough there to think that this is probably way oversold.
Schwab does a lot more than just kind of manage money. They have their own funds too. I actually have two of their ETFs in my personal fund. So that's another way that they make money, is just kind of on the expenses that they charge for those actual funds too. So that's something else they do. They also have a credit card with Chase, I believe. Oh. I think, yeah. So that they're kind of like expanding a little bit. So I think Schwab would kind of be a pretty good investment. I mean, if you ask people to name like a brokerage, it's probably going to be Schwab, and the fact that they just acquired or are acquiring TD Ameritrade is kind of nice too. They're kind of cutting out their competition, which good or bad. I mean, that's good for them, definitely.
I think it's a good bet, and I think like right now I've been really big on energy and financials.
Yeah. I mean, those are two sectors that you can't really go wrong with. You're probably always going to make money in energy and finances.
What's the worst case situation? The worst case situation is we get this huge recession. Maybe we get close to 2008, 2009, but I don't think anyone really thinks that we are.
Yeah.
Right? So Charles Schwab is going to dip down, but then as we recover, it's going to go back up.
Right.
Right? And then sort of what is the best case situation? The best case situation is, this whole financial scare thing is, people are like, oh, they calm down, it's a little overblown, and people realize that, and then the stock just steadily goes up. And I'm fine with either of those situations. I think
that's probably what's going to happen. I think investing is becoming a little bit more popular too, so that's going to help it a little bit. I mean, people have gotten kind of more in with Robinhood, got a lot more younger investors started. And I think people have kind of gotten started on Robinhood, but it's had a few issues with its user interface and a couple legal issues also. So I think people have kind of gotten into Robinhood, but then moved on to more traditional things like Schwab or Vanguard or SoFi or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to help really all of them out, hopefully Schwab specifically, but just getting more people involved in investing. And I think ETFs have also become really popular. I mean, I know a lot of other YouTubers talk about mainly ETF, like they focus on ETFs because they're a little bit more diversified. You can't really go as wrong if you make a bad decision on an ETF. So that could also be a good thing for Schwab with the funds that they create, because they do have some pretty high profile good ones that I've seen referenced in a few other YouTubers' videos.
All right, guys, I think that's going to end it for this episode. Please comment below if you thought this was a thumbs up or a thumbs down move. And we'll just kind of see how it goes. And we'll continue to track it sort of every week. All right, till next time.